Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this week's Republican Media Availability. I'm Kimberly Wirtz, Communications Director for the Washington State Senate Republican Caucus. With us today from the Senate are Senate Republican Leader John Braun from the 20th Legislative District and Senate Republican Budget Lead Chris Gildon from the 25th. From the House, we have House Republican Caucus Chair Representative Peter Abbarno, also from the 20th Legislative District, and House Republican Floor Leader Representative April Connors from the 8th Legislative District. Before we get started, I wanted to mention that we have floor action scheduled in the Senate at 9:30. So I will be asking reporters to limit to one question today, please. If you have follow-ups, you can reach me afterwards and I can put you in touch with legislators. So with that, I'll turn it over to Senator Braun for opening comments.
All right. Well, thank you, Kim. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. Sixth week of session, approaching cutoff today, so a lot going on. And of course, we had the big debate on the income tax bill in the Senate floor yesterday. Sadly, that bill moved forward, but we're counting on our House members to bring some sense to the Washington State Legislature as it gets debated over there. I just want to highlight a couple things. One, we're still focused on affordability. That's what we continue to hear from folks around my district and around the state. Regular Washingtonians are having a tough time affording food, gas, housing, childcare, healthcare. And sadly, our Democratic colleagues think that only way to solve this is by collecting more tax money and redistributing it in the hopes that they can somehow solve this problem. And there couldn't be more on the wrong track. And I don't want to just focus on the income tax, which we talked a lot about. I want to also focus, highlight that there are 72 taxes in play in the legislature right now. It's hard to believe the number is that high. And there's half a dozen that are coming up for a hearing the day after tomorrow in the Senate, things that will absolutely drive up affordability, things that will drive up healthcare costs. A cigarette vape tax that is illogical and has absolute racial undertones. We have another tax that will drive up prescription drug cost, one that will drive up costs for data centers and all the things that rely on data centers to make our economy go here in the state of Washington. Another one that will specifically go after startups here in the state of Washington. A key part of our economic growth and over the long term has been our ability to recruit high-tech startups to Washington. This bill would drive them out of the state. We have one on grocery bags, will drive up the cost of groceries. And finally, maybe the most egregious one that will assess companies a fee, but really a tax on any of their employees that use Apple Health or Medicaid. And they do it in a way that's, I think, deceptive. They want to charge the full price, even though the state only pays 10% of the price. They want to charge the full price, roughly just under $700 per person per month. It adds up to a tax on businesses around the state that employ part-time employees of about just over $1 billion. This isn't something we're reimbursing the federal government. This is something they're considering using to balance the budget. It's absolute craziness. The desire and the willingness to tax to solve every problem simply will not stop here in the state of Washington. And we're going to continue to fight back on it. I hope each of you will cover these taxes and make sure the public understands what's happening here in Olympia when it comes to affordability and going in the wrong direction here in the Washington State Legislature. I'm going to stop right there and turn it over to my seatmate and friend, Peter Abbarno from the House.
Thanks, Senator, and thank you all for being here. And I'm sure you have questions, so I'll try to be brief. But House Republicans are also still raising concerns over, the affordability issue as well as accountability, and I think that's reflected in, the 6 weeks of floor speeches, amendments, and motions. One thing I'll comment is we had the first revenue forecast of the year that showed really mixed results, and while there's some projected general fund revenue increases to the tune of about $1.8 billion over the next 4 years, really just gets us back to where we were at the end of last session. I think to note, much of it's a result of the largest tax increases in state history, and you can see that in the B&O tax generation. And while the state may claim to have more money, or House Democrats might, it's at the expense of small business owners and working families who really have less, which we discussed on the House floor over and over again the fact that affordability, as Senator Braun said, is still the number one issue House Republicans are hearing from constituents around the state, and House Democrats are not addressing those affordability issues by passing bills that would provide relief at the kitchen table for families and for small business owners on Main Street. And that being said, we looked at a number of different policies that we addressed just in the past week, from data centers with a massive tax increase and doing so to try to prevent the innovation and economic development in the state of Washington, and even you're looking at the low income energy assistance program. The state, I raise the kind of irony and the hypocrisy because we've had so many self-inflicted wounds in the state of Washington because we've not handled our energy sector well. We've not had a policy of energy diversity to drive costs down and to make sure we have energy security. And what we saw in the past week is, having to fund low-income energy assistance programs because people just can't afford to keep the lights on and heat their homes because we've just made it unaffordable. And we look at the data center bill, and we're almost making it impossible to create jobs and innovation in the state of Washington because we've ourselves as a state have not really addressed that energy issue and done it in a good way. So most of what we're seeing is just trying to fix these self-inflicted wounds. We also saw the fact that, with the Left One bill, House Democrats raided that by a tune of $4 billion and then siphoned over $500 million to CCA, which again, it's just, to raid a pension plan and then to say we're going to take $500 million and put it in CCA rather than what House Republicans said is if you're going to even raid this, which we didn't support, but if you're going to do it, it should be going to students in education like MSOC. It should be going to drive down healthcare costs, going to the affordability issues that Senator Braun mentioned, and it didn't. It went to CCA, and that's just not the right direction for Washington. I think in addition to affordability, government accountability was a huge issue that House Republicans addressed this past week, and just yesterday, making several motions late last night to bring bills to the floor that would hold the state and state agencies like DCYF accountable and save lives of children. There was a Couture bill, a Dent bill, a Alicia Rule bill that we tried to pull to the floor on the 8th order of business to get it to the floor, to get it to a vote, to address these issues. And just like the initiatives, those bills didn't get a hearing or a vote. And again, House Democrats voted against it. So today's cutoff, the last bill, we'll see what it's going to be when it gets gavelled at 4:59. But the hope is that it's going to be a bill that actually addresses affordability and the concerns of Washingtonians. And I'm sure Senator Gildon and Representative Connors probably have more to say on that.
Great. We'll go to questions then. We'll start off today with Mitchell Rowland from the Spokesman. Mitchell, go ahead.
Good morning, guys. Obviously, the income tax bill passed out of the House or Senate yesterday and now heads to the House. The governor's holding a press conference this afternoon at 1 o'clock just to kind of give more insight on the current legislation. I was just wondering if there was anything in particular you were hoping to hear from him, or if there's anything you were hoping to hear from him this afternoon. Yes.
Well, I'm hoping to hear he changed his mind. It's a bad idea for the state of Washington. That's what I'm hoping for. I don't expect to hear that. What I do expect to hear is that he's still unsatisfied with the amount of tax relief provided in the bill coming out of the Senate. I think there's a story this morning where he said that. I suspect that's what he may say this afternoon, although I have no specific knowledge. I haven't talked to him about it. But I hope he continues. If we're going to do this, he pushes for more and more tax relief. The bill, as it comes out of the Senate, does almost nothing to reform the broader tax system. It simply gives a few special interests and some tax breaks, and then, oddly enough, a sales tax reduction on hygiene products. So I'm hoping he pushes for more tax relief.
I would also add that, as Rep. Abbarno mentioned with the revenue forecast that just came out, I would hope this would give him a reason to pause and reconsider his support of this income tax coming out. The other thing is, we see him out there talking to, the Sonics, wanting them to come back and be an NBA team here. And part of that income tax bill actually is charging our athletes who are participating in, and, we just had the Seahawks win the Super Bowl, and now we want to bring the Sonics back and then effectively have them be the athletes be taxed. And so I think there's a lot to talk about, but especially with that revenue forecast coming out, I think he should take a pause and reconsider.
Okay, great. We'll move on to Carlene Johnson with Center Square. Go ahead, Carlene.
Well, Rep. Abbarno kind of mentioned what I was going to ask about. I watched back the passionate debate on the House floor last night with Rep. Couture making those last-ditch efforts to pull those child welfare bills out of committee to a vote. I have reached out to Rep. Fitzgibbon to kind of explain what upset him so much, because he was pretty animated on the floor. But is there any way for any of you to characterize why Democrats have refused to hear Rep. Couture's bill or the other bills? Why they would be so adamant that the Keeping Families Together Act is still working when it obviously isn't? Do you have any sense of what that's all about? Because I can't wrap my head around it.
Carlene, I think I struggle with that as well. But that was, in addition to a number of other, I think, issues. Clearly, DCYF has significant issues. Clearly, families are in trouble. Children are in trouble. We've heard story after story about children dying, fentanyl use in the home, and DCYF being an inverted triangle, right? There's not enough people on the ground, not enough supervision. And there's a number of bills, both Republican and Democrat. As you know, one of the bills that we tried to address and talk about was Alicia Rule's bill, who's a Democrat, to really address that definition of imminent harm. And in response, House Democrat leadership want to talk about process rather than talk about the children and the deaths that we're seeing in homes. So I'm not going to try to get into the head of Representative Fitzgibbon. Obviously, hopefully he'll reach out to you and respond. But we are baffled as well when it's very clear. There's families in crisis, children are dying, there's a drug issue, mental health issues, and DCYF is not being a responsible government agency, and it's a real problem.
Carlene, they also talk about that this was just a process motion and that we should go to their committee, it should be handled in the committee and go through the committee, but they're not taking accountability to actually handle it in the committee. They didn't bring two of those bills up for a hearing. They did one for Alicia Rules. We know that imminent harm, that factor, those words matter in the bill and the structure, and they're not being accountable for that. And we've watched kids in our own communities. I had a little girl in Kennewick who passed away because she was hungry and her parents were locked in the bathroom doing drugs, and she ate Skittle-colored fentanyl and died. And so, we are hearing story after story after story of kids dying from these overdoses, and the Ds they're not being held accountable, and they're not putting our bills through hearings that would actually solve the issue. So I think that is a bigger part of the problem as well.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Carlene. Next, we will go to Jonathan Martin from the Washington Observer. Jonathan, do you have a question today?
Yeah, good morning. I'm wondering we're right about it, second cutoff, and there's a ton of bills that are still active. Is there anything in the next, basically today, that you really are prioritizing trying to get through, really would push for?
Well, Jonathan, you kind of got us at a disadvantage. We don't spend a lot, a lot of our time, much more of our time is spent stopping bad bills from getting through than getting good bills through. The bills we think are good, sadly, most of them died at policy or fiscal cutoff. But so I won't, I don't have a good answer for your question, but I will, I say today, the one bill that more than any other one that I'd like to stop from moving forward, because I think it has long-term harm for our state, is the environmental crimes bill. This bill is a bill that it goes way overboard, puts both any kind of building, ag, basically every industry in our state at significant risk. And particularly when you look at the goals set by the majority when it comes to changing our energy future and the sheer amount of things we have to build to make that possible, this bill would be a death nail to that effort alone, not to mention housing or ag, which are key parts of our economy and frankly are struggling quite a bit. So I'm not, my day to day is most about stopping bad bills, not about trying to resurrect good bills that we put forward that sadly aren't going to make it.
Hey, John, give the bill number on that one.
If you give me just a minute, I will.
Yeah, and I think Rep. Connors probably has a list of bills from the floor team, but I will say, and I agree with Senator Braun, it's about preventing additional tax increases and overregulation. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of defense today in terms of trying to advocate for bills that actually address affordability and transparency and accountability, and pushing back on the ones that are going to continue to increase the cost of living. One of the real trends I've seen in this session is the expansion of authority by state agencies. If you look at, Office of Insurance Commissioner, if you look at the Attorney General's office, and I think Senator Braun brought environmental crimes up, which is a really bad bill because it creates all these new standards and authority by state agencies in the Attorney General's office to not only investigate but punish and expand the role of the Attorney General, because generally the Attorney General doesn't have the authority to prosecute, and many of these they have to get that authority from county prosecutors. A lot of these bills, even environmental crimes, are expanding that authority and really centralizing it here in Olympia. And I think it's just a trend we've seen this recently, but most certainly this session, we're seeing a lot of it.
Yeah, I noticed that the 5825, which is the AG's investigations bill, the basically administrative subpoenas bill, it's also passed just recently.
Yes. 5360 is the bill number, Jonathan.
Thank you.
And I want to be clear on that. It's not that we're opposed to good environmental outcomes, and our state has some of the strongest in the country. It's just if we do it in a way that creates such a risk for builders, they just won't invest here. We won't get the things we need to have long-term success. So we have to be very thoughtful about how we address these issues.
And Jonathan, I'll just add into, as we are moving towards the end today, the cutoff today, that we still have bad bills that we're fighting over here. And as much as I would like to say there's really great bills we want to continue to get through, our job is to try to stop things that are going to make Washington worse. And we have a JR bill, a juvenile release bill, House Bill 2389, that we have 60 amendments on the bar today that would just basically take and modify their sentences halfway through their convictions. We've seen a lot of really bad public safety bills this year, more focusing on criminals than victims. We have some of those bills left. We also have House Bill 2442, which is a real estate excise tax, which gives councilmatic authority for city councils to be able to and counties to be able to increase their REIT taxes, which on a house, like average price of a home in my district of $490,000 would add another $2,000 to the sale of a home. We also have the bottle bill still in the House, House Bill 1607, which would increase the affordability prices on every Washington resident as they buy beverages in the grocery store. And so we still have, I have pages of bills that we are trying to not move forward right now. And so our job right now is to have a strategy to get those to not make it to the House floor.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you very much. And now we will go to Sarah, and I apologize if I mispronounce this name, Sarah Meisestan with KUOW. Sarah, do you have a question this morning? No? Okay. So I do have a question here from Drew Mickelson. He is asking if the House votes to pass the income tax bill, how do you hope that they amend it so the governor will sign it?
I don't. I hope I amend it so he doesn't sign it. I mean, the intent is, I mean, look, I mean, even with bad legislation, sometimes you try to make it better. But as Senator Braun, I think, eloquently said, I mean, we need to be cutting taxes. We need to be providing relief. And Representative Connors also mentioned the revenue forecast. I don't think there's any need for it. If there's a appetite to change a quote unquote regressive tax system, you cut taxes for the people who can least afford it. You don't just keep adding taxes and layering them on. So our intention is not to try to create a good income tax that the governor will sign. We still think it's unconstitutional no matter what goes in front of the governor.
Yeah, I would just say, we're strong. I'm opposed to the income tax on principle. I'm with the Constitution. I'm with the vote of the people. But if you wanted to do this thoughtfully and wisely, first of all, you wouldn't try and rush it in a 60-day session. You do it with a proper constitutional amendment. You'd look at things that really need, will help people. Significant reductions in property tax, significant reductions in sales tax. Eliminating, if you went to this, you don't want to eliminate the business and occupations tax. You want it to be broad-based instead of carving out, most individuals and large companies like this bill does. So I don't think this bill can be salvaged. But if you were going to do it the proper way, there's an entirely different way you'd go about this.
And I would just add that, our goal over here in the House is that bill dies in the House this year, and we'll do everything that we can to stop it. I think the voters have spoken in numerous ballot measures, and they've said we do not want an income tax in Washington State. We saw it last, I think, in 2010, where just one county said that they were for an income tax. And so I think as the voters become more educated as we move forward, that they will be with us on this issue and know that this income tax is not just going to hit wealthy people. It's going to eventually hit every single person in Washington State. And so I do feel like we'll have the voters with us on this side. And I do feel like we'll do some really good work over here in the House as it comes over here to help stop it.
And I'll just tag on a little bit here is, I think people need to realize why this is being passed this year at a time when they're passing the largest income tax in this century, at a time when state revenues have never been higher. And we just had an economic and revenue forecast that came out really positive. So you've got to ask yourself, why are they passing it in this short 60-day session? In addition, like they said, it is literally tax layering. It's really laughable, the amount of tax reductions that are contained inside of this bill. If they wanted to actually fix the tax system and bring relief to middle income people and low income people across our state, we would be looking at a completely different bill right now. But the bill that's before us, it's paltry in what it does for reducing regressivity in our state. It's certainly unconstitutional, violates 95 years of precedent. It's undemocratic because it prohibits a referendum, and it's completely unnecessary because our budget, we can provide for the needs of the people within the means that we have available. And I don't think that it's very strong right now, actually. We had 3 Democrats join us in voting no yesterday. I've seen a couple of Republicans from the House that have voiced concerns over the bill. And as Representative Connors says, as people get more educated about this, I think you're going to hear more and more people rise up, more than just the 60,000 people who have signed in in Senate Ways and Means, which was record-breaking.
Hey, I'm going to change my answer a little bit. If there's one thing that they could change, if it was going to go to the governor, it would be to take out the necessity clause. So this could go to a vote of the people in a referendum like it should.
Terrific, thank you. And I noticed that Sarah is got her hand raised now. So Sarah, would you like to go ahead and ask your question?
Yeah, can you hear me now? Thank you so much. Sorry. Yeah, just really quick. Do you have a sense of, we heard a lot about Republicans also mentioning that the millionaire's tax doesn't offer a lot of immediate relief. Is there a sense that as it heads to the House, there are going to be any other amendments tacked on, similar to what we saw in the Senate with the diaper bill, other affordability related items like that?
Okay, so Sarah, thanks for the question. First of all, I just want to point out this isn't a millionaire's tax. This is an income tax that happens to have a high threshold right now. Senator Peterson was very clear in committee that that's a decision that future legislatures will have the ability to reconsider, and I fully expect they will and bring that down so that everybody's paying this in the future. Beyond that, I have heard, in fact, I heard directly from Senator Peterson, they expect the House to add more tax relief. The governor is certainly pushing for that. I don't have a good idea what that looks like. So far, it's been kind of a dabbling of little things that will help the average person, and then significant tax reductions for large corporations. So we'll see if that's the path that they continue on in the House, or if they do something that really gets after, taxes that are affecting people day to day. Property tax would be the top on my list.
Yeah, and I think that when you look at something like this income tax, I mean, the majority has created such an unaffordable state that we're spending most of our time trying to figure out how to create relief. I mean, it's really just tax shifting. It's, taking money out of the pockets of working families and small business owners, and then creating a program for them to have their hand out to try to get some relief. I think with any income tax, whether or not there's relief within the bill or not, the income tax itself is still unpopular and unaffordable or unconstitutional. And so, there may be some tax relief in there, and I don't think Republicans would oppose having tax relief in anything. But again, it doesn't fix the fact that it's an unpopular and unconstitutional income tax. And as Senator Braun said, there were opportunities to really delineate, is this really for millionaires or not? And Senate Democrats refused to say that it will stay at $1 million and above and not drop below that $1 million. And I haven't heard anything different from House Democrats that they have interest in making sure that it doesn't creep down to lower in middle class income. So very concerning. But of course, I mean, we want to see more affordability within any bill. But I just don't know how you fix something that's unconstitutional and so unpopular.
And Sarah, as to the strategy, we probably won't be putting our strategy out there about how we're going to take care of the bill and hopefully put it down and kill it this session. But I will say that I think that they're going to have a harder time passing the income tax in the House than they had in the Senate. So we will be working all angles over here to make sure that that doesn't happen. Now, I just think they're going to have a harder time here.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone, so much. We're going to cut it a little short today since we start floor action at 9:30. Senator Braun, would you like to give us some closing comments?
Yeah, thanks, Kim. I'll be quick. I just want to thank everyone for being here and for the work you do to share what's going on in Olympia with folks around the state. It's really important, and I thank you for staying after it. One quick follow-up with Carlene. You talked about the child welfare bills in the House. I want to point out 5071, which passed with strong bipartisan support, would add fentanyl to the endangerment statute. That's a bill that's got out of one chamber, and we've sent it to the House, and sadly the chair there has stood in the way for I think 4 years in a row from that bill going forward. But at least it's still in the mix. It could come for a hearing in the next week and a half and move forward should the House Democrats decide they want to do something about the deaths of children across our state. So with that, I will cut it off. I got to go out to the floor. Thanks again for being here.
Representative Abbarno, would you like to finish us off with a quick closing comment?
No, I just want to thank everyone for being here, and thanks for the opportunity to listen to both of our the Senate and House Republican perspectives. Again, with cutoff coming in today, it's going to be hot and heavy. I mean, it's going to be pretty intense to see what we can do on the floor to provide affordability and push back from any more taxes and overregulation. And again, appreciate the questions and look forward to more conversations.
Terrific. Thank you, everyone, so much. We'll see you next week.